My name is Wes Porch, in English, Avraham Barak ben Avraham in Hebrew. I live in Texas, have lived in Texas all my life. I'm 66, and really it's 66 years young. My story is a very, in some ways, unique story, sometimes almost, to some people, bizarre. As I've said, I was born and reared in Texas, in a Southern Baptist home, which is not exactly something that many Jews relate to. And as I grew up and as I became more aware of my religion and what I was doing, when I came from a very religious family, my mother was very religious. My grandparents were. They felt like we all needed to be in a church home, and that we all needed to follow the tenets of our faith. And so I adhered to the pathway. But as I got older, I began to have questions about some things that, as I read the Bible, as I began to study on my own, there were many questions that came up that I could never really get an answer to. So many times the answers were things, you don't need to know that, Wes. These are things we don't understand, Wes. These are great mysteries that we don't really understand, but this is what you need to do. And even to the point of the comment that, if you have that kind of question, Wes, then you need to look at your faith. You're probably not a Christian. As I grew up and got married, my wife and I, we both come from Southern Baptist backgrounds. We felt like we had been raised that way, so it was the right thing to do, was to raise our children in a Baptist home, in a Baptist church. And so as our journeys begin to progress, we begin to look at some other things and try to answer some of these questions that we'd had. We began to search. And this led us to, and I almost hate to use the word, but it served as a bridge for us. We met with a Messianic group that the guy was teaching what he called Hebraic perspectives. He was teaching the New Testament from Torah, more or less. And he threw out a lot of things that really was captivating. We had never been exposed to Torah, mitzvot. All of this is brand new. Israel. I taught school, I taught geography, I knew where Israel was. But as far as having any kind of connection, there was none. All it did was intensify my desire to search and to dig and to find out more about what he was saying. And in 2001, he put together a tour to Israel out of our group. I think there were 30 of us, I believe, came. We made the trip to Israel in 2001, June of 2001, spent 12 days here. It was a phenomenal visit. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever even imagine going to Israel. And now I was going to Israel with a reason. Even though it's somewhat misguided at that point, it was a reason. And so I really don't regret the Messianic influence because it served as a bridge to get me to look a little further. The day we left, as the plane left Tel Aviv, I punched my wife in the seat next to me and I said, "I'm coming back." And I don't really know why I said that, but there was a yearning inside me that I couldn't really put a finger on. It was just an intense something in my heart. And so I said, "I'm coming back." And I did. I came back 8 months later in March of 2002, knowing basically no one in Israel. I get off the plane in Tel Aviv and here I am. I did have, through email and a couple of letters, a contact in Jerusalem, a man who owned a jewelry store on Ben Yehuda Street. So I made my way to his shop, and for the first time I actually met him face to face. And I spent the next 15 days with him, traveling the country. He was gracious enough to take me to a lot of different places. I saw a lot of different places, but more than anything, I got to share a couple of Shabbats with some of his friends and his family that were here in Jerusalem, and things just kind of began to fall into place for me, in one sense of the word. Certainly no final answers by any means, but things were beginning to take shape in my head that Christianity, Messianic, whatever you want to call it, was not where my heart was. What I found was, really and truly, the Messianic movement was teaching nothing different than Christianity. It was still the same basic philosophy, that ultimately you're going to have to believe in this one Jesus. Now, he was a Jew, and all this stuff, was thrown in the package. Everybody wore talits and kippot. It was they borrowed a lot of Jewish ideas, tangible Jewish things in order to relate. But it was all superficial. The more I looked into it, and they're teaching nothing different than the church taught. They simply wrap a talit around it, put a kippah on it, and say Baruch Hashem and stuff like that. But it's still Jesus. And as I was finding in my searching and digging, he's nowhere. He's nowhere in Torah. He's not there in no way, shape, or form. And somewhere along this line, someone directed me to a website called Messiah Truth. I went to the website, and it's a counter missionary, which appealed to me because the counter missionary was refuting Christianity, which was in my heart, this is what I myself was doing. I was trying to refute what I had grown up with. And this gave me then, through Messiah Truth, and what I found in it, it gave me some tangible things to grab hold of to refute the very thing that I had grown up in. And then I also, from Messiah Truth, came on to a website called Outreach Judaism that Rabbi Tovia Singer does. And from that day on, my life was changed. I knew that Judaism and the path of Judaism was probably what I wanted to follow. And I made the commitment in my heart to pursue that path. It has been a very interesting journey. I admire Rabbi Singer so much for the depth of knowledge that he put out, but yet he put it in such a way that just an average person like me can understand. It was not so far out, so deep, so that I couldn't grasp it. Kind of like it says in Deuteronomy, the word is not far from you, it's not across the oceans to you, and it's not in the heavens to go get it. It's in your mouth, it's in your heart. And he does this. So in a lot of ways, Tovia Singer became my distance mentor. None that he knew about, but I was certainly gaining from what he was offering, what he was teaching, and it opened up so many doors for me, so many places to go to search and to dig and to find answers that I was searching for, because I'd always known and always felt, like I said, that there was something out there more than just human and mankind. There was something much bigger, and I'd always acknowledged that, but I just needed something. I was in search of something a little more solid. And when I got into Torah and began to study Torah and through the directions of Rabbi Singer and others, I began to see that Torah was, for me, I hate to say an answer, because that makes it sound like that's the end. And it's certainly not the end. It's something I explore every day. It gets bigger every day. There are no ends for me. So I don't like to say it was the answer, but it certainly was the crowning point, I guess, in my journey. We lost some friends over it because they couldn't believe that we were doing this. And when I say we, My wife ultimately followed in the same footsteps I was following. I let her go at her own pace, I wasn't about to say, you need to do this because I'm doing it. This has got to be something that you do on your own. If you don't have a heart for it, if it's not there, certainly don't do anything I'm doing just because of me. You're not obligated. And so I progressed maybe at a little faster pace than she did on my journey toward Judaism. Mainly because I had a little more time to dig and study. She was teaching full-time in school, so she didn't have as much time to study. But ultimately, she came to the same point I was, on her own volition. So we converted in, I guess it was 2004. And in 2006, then our daughter and her husband and 2 sons also followed the path of conversion. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. One that I'll never regret anyway. What's it like to be in Israel? Every time I come, there's more of a connection with me and the land and with the people. I make, for every friend we lost because of our move, I've gained 20 friends here. And they're more than friends. It is much more than friends. I honestly feel a part of this land. I feel a part of this people. Don't be afraid to step out of the box. Don't be afraid to question what you've been taught all your life. Because as I found out in Judaism, that's one of the beauties of Judaism. Question it. Question it. Turn it back and forth. Turn it upside down. Look at it. Whereas in Christianity, really and truly, and I don't say this with any animosity, but in Christianity, don't ask a lot of hard questions. And you certainly don't step out of the box. Don't rock the boat, as the saying goes. And to people who have some nagging doubts and thoughts, don't be afraid to step out of the box. Don't be afraid to go to places like Outreach Judaism, Messiah Truth, and any one of a number of other places. Don't be afraid to go to those and read and explore. Don't be afraid to question. And you're going to get turned back. You're going to get rebuffed. You're going to have, and the further you go, you're going to have some difficulties to some degree. But don't hesitate and don't be afraid. It'll be well worth everything you do.